consider is electro and magnetic, and they're very closely related in various methods. The electro dies a heat death very shortly, and the magnetic flux field continues onward, and it's actually what makes possible radio waves and all kinds of energy applications that are not possible with electricity. So with that in mind, I've worked on about 200 or so different devices, and a large number of them actually show evidence which is contrary to what we're taught in physics. My experience with that was that when my son was quite young and in university level, I had the opportunity to see his physics books, and I realized that something was badly amiss as far as energy was concerned. And with that in mind, for about 20 years I've been pursuing the subject and in great detail. And I'm like killing snakes, I tend to overdo things. So I've spent a great deal of time and very intense effort in learning about energy and various aspects of it. And regards to that, these devices which are going to be seen on the screen here, I think the first one is the 8-unit device, and that is in manufacture in Russia now. The Russians sent over a group of technicians to Houston, and we spent about 6 months working out the details on it, and it was replicated in about four times the size of what you see in the photograph there. And it was highly successful, and it did everything that I said it would do. This type of device normally it has the enemy of heat. If the heat is involved in the process, it kills the magnet system off. So we had to have a device which did not have that heat killing aspect in order for the magnets to continue on for long periods of time. In this system, the way it's constructed, the magnets will last basically forever from a human standpoint without needing to be replenished. But what most people are not aware of is the fact that these magnets have hundreds of Gauss in them, and a Gauss is an energy equivalent of about 100,000 watts of electricity. And that's on the basis of a temporary exposure. When the system rotates, it has a shielding thing inside it which breaks the magnetic contact in part. And by constructing it the way I do, it doesn't kill off the magnetic system. And the Russians have been particularly successful in developing this device. And the Russian Academy of Science and a whole slew of other people in Russia followed me very closely, and we're in contact almost on a daily basis. And they have a number of other devices which I have, and they've actually patented some of them through the European Patent Office. And so I have a number of real important landmark patents which have come down the line courtesy of the Russian Academy of Science. And I didn't have to pay for it. They supplied the funds and everything and took care of it automatically from my descriptions, and which I supplied them. And they consider that it's the way to go. And we're going to see something which is very simple later on. It's the piece de resistance after we get through with this talk near the end of it. There's two things coming up. There's on the electron pairing, there's someone here who has developed and copied and has a design patent on this electron pairing sequence, which is very clever and helps illustrate the nature of electrons. And we'll have him come up and demonstrate that for us before we go into the final part of the show. And at this point, if we go on to the next device, and I'm going to have to be able to partially turn in order to be able to discuss this with you. We can continue with the photographs. Let's see, we may have to stamp this on. Yeah, that's good. So we'll talk as we go. There's quite a few of them. As a matter of fact, there are 116 of these photographs that I wanted to show you earlier, and I was able to edit out to about 76, I think. So we're going to have quite a ride here, so hang on to your seat and let's go. And we'll take questions later, so if you have questions, make a note of it, and we'll have time for that. Okay. The object is so you can see this first device from several angles. And this is the, when I was developing the shielding device, I had to make it myself because what we have there is a sheet of plastic, and we take the cover off the paper cover off the sheet there, and we spray shielding material, powdered metal shielding material over the thing after spraying it with rubber cement. And I do several layers of that, and the part of it is going to be when you pull up the mass there, the center part, which you see right now with the paper on it, will disappear, and so will the shielding material, and there will be openings inside the mass there that allow for the magnetic flux to pass through it. Okay? You're seeing the same thing up closer, and there's going to be a point there where we can pull some of the shielding material off, and you'll see how it works. Okay, this is a different device. We'll skip over it for the time being, but that's 35 kilowatt device that we just saw, and it works like gangbusters. This is one of our early coil deals. I have one now which Bill Wysock has built for me out in California, which I go to visit him after I leave here, and I'll be there for July the 4th in Bill Wysock's presentation, annual presentation on July the 4th with the huge coils that he builds. And all the news media, everyone from all over the world will be present for that. And I get a front row seat. But he's building a very special Tesla coil for me, and it's actually 3-layer Tesla coil, and with one energy source running 3 coils. It's 40 inches in diameter, and the wire is much larger than your thumb here. It's a type of welding cable. It's multi-stranded. The reason for multi-stranded is that it causes the magnetic flux to multiply in such a way that is very beneficial. So this type of coil, the diameter of the coil divided by the diameter of the coil times the number of strands available is a multiplication factor in the coil set. So if you put 500,000 watts into it, the magnetic flux will end up being, say that it has 30 turns on it or something like that. We'll be having approximately 30 times the output in usable form, magnified to the 30th degree. So this is very early when I built to demonstrate that. This is about 20 years ago, and at that point I knew that I was getting a lot more energy out than in, and it was very easy to see improve. So this energy has to come from somewhere, since it's not neither created or destroyed. It simply changes form. So this energy has to come from somewhere. So the only possible place it can come from is the ambient background, which is actually, you see it when the Earth rotates or turns. It's like an electric motor. Something has to cause it to spin. So you take the weight of the Earth and the rotation, rate of rotation, and you can calculate the energy, ambient energy present in the Earth's electrical system. And this is true of all the celestial bodies, what makes them rotate, and the degree to which the energy is present in order for that celestial body to be rotating. And this is all, it gets back into the electron thing. The electrons are the cause of it all, and we'll have something on that a little bit later. Okay, we can continue on. Okay, this is a diode bridge that goes with the flat coil we just saw. And it was built, since the frequency at which this thing is running is down within the easy range of what diodes can do, that sort of thing. You can actually extract the energy very easy and see the multiplication factor. Okay, next. And these are just different views of the same thing for your you can see it's not very many turns, but it was very effective. Okay, this is something else. We had a group of people that were able to take, my mind's going to say, just a second, please. When you have when you have pressure on devices and they generate electricity, that's what this is all about, because it's a device which, unknown to most people, if you have okay, we're stamping on somewhere.
Well, I would.
That's good. That'll take care of it.
That was the 0 point edit.
Okay, anyhow, this is a pressure sensitive type device which when you put pressure on it, it generates electrical field. And with that in mind, most people don't realize that electrical current are alternating current coming into something like this is the same pressure type deal. So you're generating electricity with a piece of solid state device. And the project, if you follow the put it together, and there it is complete. So the idea was I put energy into the center part there, and it was producing energy out on each side there, a great deal more than what was put in. For example, if 5 volts was put in, it might have 10,000 volts out, that sort of thing. So you got 2 sides there, and times 10,000, that's 20,000 volts coming out of that thing. And what really happens there is that volts and amps, of course, are very different things, but amps only occur when you have a grounding. So in order to turn this into useful energy, it's the way in which you ground it will determine whether it becomes a practical source of useful energy. But it turned out very successful and a very high rate of amplification. And we'll look at some more of the parts when I was putting it together. Okay, this is a diode bridge which I designed myself for my plasma tube experiments. In plasma, if you have a way to measure the magnetic flux, which there's a number of ways, plasma tubes put out such huge amounts of energy you can't believe. So you put maybe 20 volts in or 10 volts in or whatever, and out of the plasma tube, it's the energy coming out is maybe 50,000 or more units of energy that's going in. So a great deal more than that actual. So if you have a way to capture the energy from the plasma tube in a practical way, and you work it down in the frequency zone where the diodes work for you instead of against you, you can get a lot of useful energy directly from the plasma tubes. Go ahead. This is sort of a stranger got in between. It's one of the 200 or so devices that I told you about. Go ahead. Okay, this is inside of one of the more sophisticated zones, and that thing in the center there with the coils on it was intended to correct the frequency so that you could control it properly. And it turned out that I had calculated everything such that it didn't need that part of the device. So go ahead. Okay, this is where the energy passes through one side of it there. The magnetic flux feeds onto a secondary coil there, which is the feedback coil, which means that the device, once it's started, it can run on its own and generate electricity basically forever. Okay. There's some more views. Go ahead. And more views. And that's the details on some of the capacitors and things that are there. Go ahead. Okay, this is a device which you'll recognize for measuring DC current, flux, DC flux, and it's something you use in combination with several other instruments. Go ahead. Okay, this is a high voltage, a high frequency device for measuring energy. Go ahead. This is one of my early devices with the shielding, shielding material on it, which keeps the flux inside the box. It's aluminum. Okay, this is one of the plasma tube devices with the Delaware Bridge thing intact there. And back up, Martin. Okay, see that pyramid there? The people in Egypt there and their pyramids back several thousand years before Christ had energy devices, and what you're seeing there is a photograph of the energy flux in the area of the pyramid, and it's enormous. And the triangular shape is what contributes to that. And the base material there would be one type of mineral which had electrical characteristics, say, of one type, and then the pyramid itself is made of another kind of material which has a different electrical component. And between the sand which is sitting on and the pyramid material, which is a different material, and the triangular shape of it gives us this energy flux. And mountains do this all the time. If you're in the mountainous area, you can see the electrical display coming out from the mountains. So the triangular type system relates to the energy which you see in mountain chains as such. In Central and South America, you can see that quite good at night. It lights up as a type of lighting which comes from nature. Okay, Von Daniken built some of the electric light bulbs that were shown in the pyramids, and they worked. It's documented in your all of your information sources, but he actually shows photographs of electric light bulbs which he's duplicated, which look exactly like the ones the Egyptians were building 3,000 years ago. So electricity has been around in useful form for quite a while, and we just didn't understand it, and we're getting to the point where we're beginning to understand it. And when you leave here today, you'll have a much better view of what's out there, because you're not getting something for nothing, and you're not creating anything. You're just simply changing it from one form to another, and in that change process from one form to another, you have useful energy. If the energy is static and not moving, or is mass, or other forms of energy, you don't really see anything useful. It's only when it's going from one form to another that it becomes useful. And you capture it just like the water running down from the mountain to the back to sea level. In between, you put a paddle wheel there, and you've captured the energy. And this is true of all forms of energy, whether it's electrical or whatever. Okay. This is one of the